far. Okay. It's the general prologue, the introduction. When in April, and it hasn't yet rained, and the drought of March is again sustained another year of our eternal spring, then old Santa Ana begins to sing that fire yet most familiar tune. Los Angeles always feels like June. Smoggy skies and endless sun for days. Our seasons change by the sports that we play. The boys of summer always dash to fall. So it's a good thing we have basketball, because our Rams and Raiders sneaked away, and the Kings make our winters cold and gray until the madness marches throughout the spring, and the Bruins and Trojans do their thing. Not that we all pay attention too much. In LA, we're pretty well out of touch from one community to the other. Neighbors are strangers to one another. On the west side, they're busy running the store, and the east side is the west side's eyesore. The south is the center of civil war between the LA cops and gang and poor. The north is a place I can't say much about. Whenever I go there, I get kicked out. But none of this serves the matter at hand. This prologue is more what the scholars demand. Set in the meter, framing the poem. This part is not for you, readers at home. That having been said, I'll truly begin with the names and descriptions of all of the men and the one woman involved in this tale. And I'll begin with Leo, the oldest male. But first, I should probably set the scene. The 7 of us, uniformed in green, all worked at the downtown Holiday Inn on the graveyard shift, which started at 10 and ended at 8 the following day. $8 an hour in an overtime day from that cheap bastard Donald Brubury, or the Brubury Sons of Security. Leo Kapitansky, a Russian Jew, was in charge of our security crew. A handsome man for his age, I suppose, despite his large disproportionate nose, his jaw chiseled sharp like some crime-marked dick, his muscular body solid and thick combined to create a masculine air, virile and strong as his full head of hair. But Leo had hands like a woman might, small fingers thin with the skin as smooth and tight as the hide of a bongo drum from Spain. Perhaps his hands had been shrunk by the rain that slipped like tears from red mother sockets. Years spent patrolling, hands in his pockets, smoking and drinking and trying to stay warm. 8 years in the army with little harm, thank God, because he was the best of men. May I never see my mother again, if indeed I'm not telling the truth. So what if he cheated on his wife, Ruth? After all, none of us is without sin. If I'm wrong, let the rock throwing begin. And Leo's no different in that regard, but he was one fine security guard. Second in command was Alex Loma, who spent his shift in kind of a coma, sleeping from midnight to 7:30, snoring and drooling. He was a critic, but he had another job on the side, which is why most of us just let it slide and never complained or molested him. Besides, most of the guys detested him and preferred that he spent his time asleep. Alex Loma was a huge macho critic, an ounce of steak to a pound of pure fat, and that's all I'm going to speak of that. John Schamberger's next, a man without shame. Schamberger, he said, was just a slave name, imposed upon his shackled ancestors by white American dream investors who killed the natives and enslaved the blacks, then built this country upon their backs. Schamberger had taken classes at school, which spoke of the acres and of the mule, promised to families allegedly free when Northern Gill got Southern greed. Bitterness bubbled and shot through his veins. It started to eat away at his brains. It's because I'm black, his favorite phrase. He pulled a race card at every phase of an argument he was losing. His credibility took a bruising with all the time and energy spent trying to prove OJ innocent. We argued for so many months on end, never once did he break or bend, but I must admit I admired him. The fire inside that inspired him made him always look outside of the box. And although he seemed stubborn, made of rocks, he's one of the best men I ever knew. Over the years, just watching how he grew. He's a volunteer mentor down in the hood, in Hawthorne, Compton, and Inglewood. He doesn't drink, smoke, or use any drugs. He preaches to pimps and dealers and thugs, the word of the book he keeps by his bed. John promised me that before he was dead, he will have made the world a better place. And I watched as the tears slipped down his face, and I knew that he already had. But before this tale gets too sappy or sad, I'll get back to Schamberger later, by moving things now to Joseph Thader, the next of our group in seniority. Not that rank is a real priority, it just seems a practical way to proceed. And Joe Data was practical indeed. Economic with words and his feelings, often sit and stare up at the ceiling, leaning way back in the chair provided. Rarely ever did he get excited. Born near Manila in '63, Joseph dreamed of the land of liberty. But now apparently he was content. He had enough money to pay the rent, he had a car and a nice place to live, and a sum of money left over to give to his local church once in a while. A gift he gave with a wink and a smile. Joe and his wife were Roman Catholic. At least Joe was until his father got sick and died slowly of cystic fibrosis. Joe's faith suffered his father's prognosis, and like so many now, he questioned a God who unfailingly failed to spare the rod and the good and loyal sheep of the flock. while the black sheep's profits, barrel and stock, piled up like the Amargosa Mountains. For Joe was more coins tossed in a fountain, a deposit for a seat in heaven. Joe's wife worked at the 7-Eleven, part-time on the weekends to make ends meet, pretty, young, and apparently sweet. She cooked like his mom back in the Lolos. She spoke English, Spanish, and Tagalos. She let Joe get to sleep during the day, and rarely ever did Joe have anything mean to say with their life together, for Joe's life was the smoothest of weather. But Joe did have kind of a darker side. He once beat a man near death who had tried to proposition him in a sexual way. Joe knew some judo and some karate and did all that he could to clock the man. If there was a God, then it wasn't his plan, Joe felt, to create that type of creature. This, by far, is his ugliest feature, which I've included for your benefit, with all the details I feel best befit a fair and worthy portrait of my friends. The means, if you will, justify the ends. My loyalty to them does not affect how I describe them now in retrospect, which is how I must describe myself next. It's only fair as I'm part of this text. JT Glass is the name, and lo and behold, I'm suddenly finding it very hard to speak of myself as I did of my peers. Perhaps if I had a couple of beers, I might be able to figure it out. Not that alcohol is what I'm all about, it just seems I put myself in a jam. Because now it seems I don't know who I am. All in all, I'd say I'm a decent guy, although I have been known to tell a lie or two to the ladies from time to time. But is that an unforgivable crime? It's not like the ladies just give it away. Hell, most won't give me the time of the day. One must work to catch the girl of his dreams when he's short around like a Krispy Kreme. My friends said that I'll communicate well, that I lock things inside and never tell them the things that they need or want to hear. Hey waitress, come on, hurry up with that beer. But is that my failure or is it theirs? By trying to change circles into squares, aren't they being a little bit unfair? As if their shapes are beyond all repair. I should probably mention my family. After all, they are a huge part of me. At least once a week we get together, and over lunch we discuss whether or not the film we watch has done its job. One might say we're a family of snobs by the intense way we dissect our work. But the freedom we share is the best perk of our weekly family day routine, in which any censorship isn't seen. But isn't it natural in the end to have one's parents as his best friend? I'll leave that question to another bar and return to my own LA backyard where for years I've been a security guard. UCLA is pretty hard when you work the graveyard from 10 to 8, but I wasn't the only of this fate. Rolla Amin was also a student, from Iraq no less, where it wasn't prudent for a woman to be educated. This outdated practice proved ill-fated when Rolla was accepted to USC to pursue a woman's studies degree. I first met Rolla on a downtown train because my car was in the shop again. And instead of choosing an empty seat, she walked over and sat down next to me. "Excuse you," I said, and turned to see this beautiful girl clad in burgundy and yellow-colored Trojan V-neck tee. "I'm Rolla," she sang in lyrical prose, and normally I would have turned up my nose at the sight of such obvious bad taste. After all, as C is from Hemingway's. Sorry, I was there. But Rolla was different. She smelled so good, like chocolate, jasmine, and sandalwood. So I apologized and looked away. She spoke after that, but I couldn't say exactly what it was she spoke about. She gave me her number and we went out a couple of times, but before I knew it, too scared to kiss her, I really blew it, winding up in the friend category. Which wasn't the worst part of the story, because like some schmo, I played the friend part and gave her college career a jump start by getting her a job at the hotel. And sure, the graveyard shift is hell, but it also offers time to study. Hours of quiet time with her buddy, me, JT Glass, a pathetic coward. It wasn't long before my feelings soured for Pretty Rolla, my platonic friend, which finally brings this list at the end, as there's just one last guy for you to meet, a funny little dude nicknamed Feet. His mother had named him Darren Arita, born in a taxi cab in Reseda on the way to the hospital that day. As a child, the Feet had started to play the piano, he said, at the age of 3. The Feet swore he was a prodigy. He allegedly went to special schools that maximized all the God-given tools that constructed his superior mind. A bigger liar would be tough to find than my good friend and co-worker, the Feet, but a nicer guy you may never meet. The youngest and shortest of our group, the Feet was often left out of the loop like an annoying little brother type. Often he bragged about laying pipe to a few of the hot cleaning ladies. Hispanic women he called his babies who he had never even spoken to. His raunchy story, so vivid and blue, Obvious lies, but so entertaining, in which only Bola was left complaining about the unlikelihood of it all. She deemed these story sessions sausage balls, in which we gleeful yahoos would wash her muck, threw crap on the wall just to see if it stuck. But I couldn't blame the thief for trying. His ticket in was his gift for lying. Without it, the feat was just ignored. Unless the guys were rolling on the floor laughing and teasing him about his feet, which resembled two ham hocks, fat with meat. A feature which highly colored his lies, as such was the trait that caught women's eyes. But the feat was plain old daring to me. Often on patrols, he would let me see all of his colors, and not just the blue that he painted for the rest of the crew. His life was a struggle which never eased, being unsuccessful with Japanese. He was a runt, with big old hooves for feet. He slurred his rays in ways I won't repeat. Darren's culture, ingrained with honor, pride, made failures only virtue, suicide. Thoughts that haunted Darren every day of just giving up and slipping away. We were kindred spirits. I know this now, though. I'm not sure why, I'm not sure how. He just wanted to know things would be fine. He showed me his scars and I showed him mine. But no more of this sad, sorry stuff. These descriptions I've said enough for a general portion of my friends. So now I'll finally let the tale begin.